Welcome to the Dave Palma Show, the podcast that revives, restores, and awakens your innermost capabilities.
You have the training and the talent to succeed, but do you have the guts to fail? I love what I do. When you love what you do, you want to be the best at it.
Today is about the power of you. You will change the world.
Find your path to success through the journey of those who have succeeded. And now, your host, Dave Palma.
Hi, welcome back to the Dave Palma Show. And with me in this episode is a professor of cognitive science, neuroscience, and psychiatry at the University of California, San Diego, and the author of many widely cited papers in animal and human cognitive systems and neuroscience, as well as 2 books of poetry on mind-brain relationships with an emphasis on spirituality, mysticism, environmentalism, and social activism. His new book is Controlling Mental Chaos, Harnessing the Power of the Creative Mind. Jaime Pineda, welcome to the Dave Palma Show.
Thank you, Dave. Great to be here.
Fantastic having you here as well, Jaime. Obviously a big subject of mine, doing the mind. I was more into sports and fitness, and with my background, obviously as a firefighter and an athlete, but then I just kind of like, through my own experience, looked at the mind more, and now it's a more generic, holistic coaching that I look at now. And I'm on a mindfulness app now with all kinds of coaches and people like yourself on there, actually, believe it or not. So
wonderful.
Yeah, and it's more giving mindfulness stuff out, but I'm just there as a coach, life coach, etc. So I'd like to say personal coach, really, because it started off with sports coach, athletics, track and field, So
yeah, sure.
Interesting. The two areas before we move on to just firing on about your book, but you've got quite a lot going on. Obviously, psychiatry is kind of like, you qualify as a doctor, then you specialize in psychiatrist. Is that what you did, or?
Yeah. Well, my background is really on research. I was specializing in studying children on the autism spectrum, people with schizophrenia.
Right. Yep.
And trying to understand, what had gone wrong in their brains to make them be the way they were. And so my interest is really on how does the brain produce the mind?
Yes.
And these were populations that told us a lot about how that could happen.
Yeah. And I do write in my book, Firefight from Within. It's not really for people to think, do I have to put on a uniform and learn how to do it? No, it's more of a mindset book, as using firefighting analogies. But I use my time before from school days, and I do mention about my dyslexia and how that I didn't find out until I was an adult. Right. There can be some overlaps of other neurodiversities, like you've mentioned, but that's an interesting area because it's to do more with neuroscience, like you said, neurotransmitters and things like that. I don't know, the neuro. It's not so much a mental health issue, is it, with that side of things?
Well, the thing is that when you think about people tend to think of the brain as the kind of the hardware part, and then the mind as kind of the software part. But in fact, you can't really separate them. I mean, they're really the same thing. The brain produces the mind, and the mind affects the brain. So how you think literally kind of changes the wiring patterns, the circuits.
Yes.
It's totally unlike a computer, where a computer never changes. It does the same thing over and over. A brain changes with the way it thinks.
Yeah.
So that's the interesting part about it.
And the other area I'm intrigued by is the fact that you actually combine animal and human cognitive systems, which is quite interesting.
Yeah, I assume that my background, assumes that humans evolved from other species, right? And because when you look at like the structure of the brain of mammals, from mice to dogs to monkeys, it looks almost exactly like the human brain, laid out architecturally very similar. Right.
Yeah.
So that something evolved. We didn't come out of nothingness. So So, by studying animals and studying how they think, how they respond, you can study or you can learn about human cognition.
Well, that's certainly what they do when they to give clinical trials for drugs and things like that, using guinea pigs.
Absolutely.
Hence the word guinea pigs. Yeah, interesting. Okay, all right then. So let's get to it then. Let's get talking about your book. So what makes this book different from others in the same space? Because there is, as I said, a lot being said and done in this work. I'm on an app with a few people talking about this sort of work,
Well, when we talk about controlling mental chaos, this is a problem that humans have had for thousands of years, right? It's nothing new.
No,
but it seems like it seems to be getting worse, and part of the getting worse, I think, has to do a lot with technology. But
you're not talking about AI.
Yeah, AI and ready access to iPhones and smartphones. They bring the world to you, and with it, all the problems of the world come to you.
AI is really frightening, really. I mean, it's frightening and good. Two things at the same time,
Exactly.
So it just needs to get a control of that. But let's talk about your book and getting the mind control.
So my background is in science, and I try to combine that background with my background in contemplative practices. I've been doing mindfulness meditation for 30 years as well.
Okay.
And so the combination of the science and the contemplative practices, one gives you the outside in perspective and the other one gives you the inside out perspective. I thought I had gotten a lot of good insights from both and thought that I needed to put them down on a book to help others, basically to learn, because I had used these things to help myself, right? I suffered from anxiety and all sorts of problems. Mm-hmm. And I thought, well, I should use these tools, see what happens. And they helped. And so I thought, well, I need to tell others what I did and also give them the insight of what's happening in your brain when this is happening. Because this is the one thing that's changed and that's different, I think, in my book. Science is coming around to explain what we've known for thousands of years. Doing meditation does these wonderful things, but how and why? And so science is now telling us the story from that perspective, and I thought that'd be useful to put it down on a book.
Right. Yeah, that's very interesting. Very interesting. And what makes this book unique in terms of the relationship between creativity and anxiety? You mentioned anxiety in yourself as well. So,
yeah. So my working assumption is that the chaotic mind is really Let's start from the very beginning. We are all born as very creative, energetic beings. If you look at an infant, a baby, you can see that energy, that spontaneity, that curiosity, and creativity. And so my take is that the problems that we encounter later in life are simply our creative self trying to solve problems, but not being able to get to the right answers. So I don't see anxiety and fear and obsessive compulsive disorders as negative things. I see them as unfocused creativity, just trying to find the answer, but not getting to the right answer. And so what I think we need is the brain needs to be given tools that can help it get to that, what we want, the right answers. And so that's my relationship to creativity is just that creativity is this thing that we are from the very core, our essence. Mm-hmm. It gets covered up and distorted by the way we grow up and develop and so on. But it really is trying to help us whenever we need problems. And we just need to give it a little tweak here and there and get it to work right.
Yeah. So you're saying we already have the creative mind, and then obviously over time, years, it kind of gets distorted. Well, obviously that is true because you experience certain things, and then it gets clogged up with anxiety and memories and all kinds. This is all to do with the limbic system and and then everything else that's there with it. The reptilian brain and or whatever. So, So how does that suddenly change and distorts that creative mind of theirs, and how do you get it back?
Yeah. So, like I said, we're born with what I call an original mind, an original creative mind. Everybody is born that way, unless you have genetic deficits and things like that. But as we develop, because we are very vulnerable at a very young age, when we experience the world, there are some bad things that can occur to us, right?
Yes.
Parents don't feed us, they don't give us love.
Yeah.
And so what we do is we develop protective mechanisms to minimize the hurt that the world is giving us, right? And over time, you can imagine you build up all these strategies and ideas and expectations of how do I minimize this hurt, this problem. And this evolves into what we now call the ego, right? The ego evolves as a protective mechanism to protect that vulnerable self. But the ego is this distorting cloud that we acquire, you know, and it covers up that initial beautiful inner creative core that we are. And so if you can just deconstruct the ego, and this is what a lot of paths do, a lot of medical, ways of dealing with the ego, they try to deconstruct it. And by that, we simply say it's giving, letting go of all these ideas that we evolve so that you let that inner core come through. And when you do that, that creativity comes out, right?
Yeah. Excellent. One of the other things is where sometimes mind can be very obsessed with things, can't it? I mean, obviously you've got obsessive compulsive disorders and things like that. But in general, people do get obsessed with. Sometimes it's not really obsession; it's just the way things are. It's a culture. Like, for example, NFL football's a very obsessive sport in the US, and soccer, well, you call it soccer, we call it football as well. Here is a very obsessive sport in the UK, and so forth. But what are some solutions? We talk about the obsessive mind. What are some solutions proposed to deal with an obsessive mind?
Okay. Yeah. So the basic problem that I see is that we have tended to give our intellectual mind the power to solve problems. We have gotten too dependent on our intellect to solve problems. But we now know from science, from psychology, that the intellect, as wonderful as it is, it can solve, one or two problems quite well. But when it faces 60, 70, 80, 100 different problems at once, it gets easily overwhelmed, right?
Yeah.
And this is what we're all facing. And when I said technology creates an even bigger problem, because technology brings even 100 more problems into our being, right? And so what we need is, so we say that the intellect is resource limited. This is what the science is telling us. It's very limited in terms of like the amount of working memory that it has, the amount of capacity that it has. Again, it's good for one or two problems. And so what we need to cultivate something that is not cultivated in the West. This is another mindset that gives us the big picture. It can see things from this bigger perspective. It has access to more creative kinds of thinking. Anyway, this is what's called non-conceptual awareness or open awareness, right? And it's the kind of awareness where let's say you're looking at a beautiful game of football, right? Soccer, whatever, right? And you appreciate the beauty of it without really trying to think about it. You just see, oh my God, how can that's open awareness. You're simply exposed to that sort of beautiful thing, right?
Yeah.
We don't cultivate that in the West. We cultivate problem solving, which is this tunnel vision. We gotta solve it, right?
And that's obsession.
And that's the obsession.
That's closed awareness. Sorry.
Yes, absolutely. Because it gives us a very small view of the world, right? And we see it in a very small tunnel. Whereas we need to expand it, and so we need to cultivate what I call open awareness. And mindfulness meditation is one of the easiest and most efficient ways to get you there. Right? Because mindfulness meditation is simply saying, open up my senses and let things be. Experience that beingness with all the things that are coming into my mind, right? What I'm seeing, what I'm feeling, what I'm sensing, and just let it be, and don't judge it. So if you cultivate that, it gives you access to all these other resources that we've missed out on.
No, I understand that. I suppose in a funny way, some cultures, allow you to have 4 wives, but men being men in the Western culture, you might have 4 girlfriends.
Oh my God,
but the culture tells you only one. So now you've got a problem solving of which one. No, I'm just joking.
For some people, that might be a nice problem.
And then that might lead to some kind of obsession because I'm only focusing on that one, and then it's stalking and oh my God. But I suppose I see your point. I'm just sort of getting it. That's probably how stalking happens, isn't it? Really, because of the fact that your phone, if you did actually say there's plenty of fish in the sea, so the saying goes, you don't stalk, do you? But because it is the culture, Western culture is telling you certain things, and you start getting obsessed, don't you? Really? So it kind of. I mean, it's a really bad analogy, but I'm just trying to, that is.
No, but I think you're making a good point, which is that our culture defines which strategies we utilize in our day-to-day being, and our Western culture prioritizes the intellect and this narrow tunnel vision over everything else. And unfortunately, that's part of the culture. It says you need to problem solve instead of open yourself up to these experiences.
Although there's nothing wrong with having a problem-solving brain as well, but it's just being aware that there's other forms of using your brain than
absolutely
that.
Absolutely. And I in my book I use the word balance a lot, because this is the key. You need to balance the all these strategies, right? You need to be able to know that we have them, but also find the right balance. So problem solving when you need it, open awareness when you need it, and together they give you this beautiful creative mind.
So what are the scientific explanations of anxiety and the uncontrolled mind necessary? Why are the scientific explanations of anxiety?
Well, we live in a world where we need to explain things, and science has sort of taken over the reason that we need to find scientific explanations for everything, it seems. But so I, in my book, talk about 4 steps that people can take to go from an uncontrolled brain to a controlled brain. And it's something I call RUBI, R-U-B-I. Recognize, understand, balance, and implement. The first 2 steps, the recognize and understand, are for people who need the scientific explanations. It says you need to be able to intellectually understand what the problem is, to recognize it and understand it from that kind of place. But for a lot of people, it isn't necessary. They can go right into the implement and the balance part. They can start practicing meditation, and if it works for them, fantastic. And that's all they need to do. They don't need to understand why. It's kind of like going to a doctor and he gives you a pill for something. The pill works. You don't care why and how it works. You just care that it works.
It, get on with it.
And you move on. And so the same thing here. It's just that some people need some rational explanations.
Right. I see. Yeah. And isn't an intellectual understanding of the problem sufficient to undo it?
No. So that the implication is that what that does, like for people like me, I'm a scientist, so I need to have these intellectual explanations. What it does, it provides a richer context for understanding things, right? I think it gives me more motivation. If I understand it at that level, it motivates me to want to do it, right? So I think that, but you don't need that. You can go right into practicing mindfulness meditation or yoga or whatever gets you into that open awareness space. And if it works for you, if it calms your anxiety, if it calms your fears, then go with it, right?
Yeah.
You don't need to understand what's happening in your brain, et cetera. It's just that for those who do need that, it gives you a richer perspective.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
If you have an understanding what mindfulness is about, then it helps really, because it's more about, awareness and then everything else. And then you kind of, and meditation and breathing, gives you an understanding of what's really going on with the.
So I recommend mindfulness meditation as the most direct way to cultivate this open awareness. And what is mindfulness meditation? A lot of people get confused because they think, I need to find the time to meditate, and all that. No, because mindfulness meditation is simply being aware.
Yeah.
Being aware of what you're doing at this moment. So right now, you and I can say, what are we doing at this moment? We're having a conversation. We're doing, that's mindfulness.
Yes.
And so you can be driving a car and you can ask yourself, what am I doing? Oh, I'm driving the car. How does it feel? Oh, this is how it feels. Yes. That's meditation, right? Yeah. So you can do this 24/7. You don't need to find a special place, a special room.
Exactly. Yeah. And the reason why we focus on the breath is just an effect on the parasympathetic nervous system. I'm glad I said that right. So it's good to start with the breath and your awareness around the breath, because then it puts you in a place where you are going to control the mind, because the nervous system is stabilized. Then you can bring it to where you want the awareness to go, Yeah. So for me, if it's firefighting, or if it's at the moment controlling an 8-year-old daughter of mine, that's a challenge. Actually, moving on with that, can you explain what self-parenting is?
Well, I talk about self-parenting a lot because I'm going to listen to this very carefully. I need it. A lot of people need it, right? They missed out on the nurturing and love when they were very young.
Yeah, right.
And it's very hard to get beyond that. It creates all sorts of problems for people. So my suggestion is, before you get into meditation and all this, you need to do a lot of self-caring, self-parenting. Give yourself the love that you missed out on, the nurturing that you missed out on.
Yeah.
And this will give you a more balanced personality, I think. And then you can move on to, this other things.
Right.
But self-parenting is simply learning to love yourself.
Oh, I see. Okay. So it's parenting yourself. That's what it is.
Parenting yourself.
Yeah.
Parenting yourself.
But giving yourself self-care in that sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. That explains a lot. So can you explain what present moment centering is? I know we spoke a little bit about mindfulness just now.
It's the same thing. I just call it present moment centering because, it's centering yourself in that moment. Like wherever you are at whatever time, you can just center yourself, and by asking what's happening at this moment, and it places you right here and now. In this moment, right? Instead of thinking about things in the past or projecting into the future, you say, what's happening to me right now? And you come into the present.
Exactly.
And this, I think, is a very good thing to do.
Yeah, because it's very easy to sort of say to someone, someone might say, look, listen, you've done this wrong today and I want you to correct it tomorrow. Otherwise, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. And then they didn't do it. So you say, okay, you're going to be punished or whatever. And I'm just trying to give an example without naming names or putting and then they might seek revenge and say, oh yeah, well, you did that in the past 12 years ago to me, and then this happened then last year. No, there's nothing wrong with that, because there are things that needs to be sorted out, justice, and it could go back, in terms of all these movements going on and things like that.
Yeah.
However, if you want to, you need to deal with what's going on right now here, don't you, really? First, you need to stay grounded with, but we're talking about what's happening here right now, aren't we? Really, let's get this problem sorted out right now here,
Yeah.
And then we can solve the problem. Because yesterday's gone. Yesterday's vanished.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's important to recognize that we have these aspects of ourselves that we can go into the past, and it's important to have memories. You enjoy them and you can recall them. So I'm not arguing that you need to get rid of those things. But you utilize that whenever it's appropriate. If you need to recall things, you use it. If you need to project into the future, plan for the future, you use that, and that's fine. But most of the time, we're in the present, right? We're here and now, but we aren't. A lot of people are always thinking about the past, thinking about the future, and they miss the present, which is 90% of the time, right?
Yeah. I like the saying of once. I think I heard the saying where you can use a past to inform you. So it gives you information about where we're at now, say, for example. And then the future just gives us goals, basically, milestones. But we're not there yet, are we? So you've got to stay grounded to just work on it, haven't you, really? Otherwise, you're going to get nowhere, aren't you? You're just going to be on a treadmill, I suppose.
That's right.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, that's fantastic. Could you tell us more about where your book's at now, or what you're doing now with yourself in this book?
Yeah, well, at the moment, I'm doing a lot of promotion. So, but the book is available on a lot of bookstores and Amazon and Barnes and Noble, and I don't know in the UK where it might be available, but
Waterstones is a big bookshop here.
Okay, it
was Russian owned, but I don't know after the Ukraine war if it depends if it was pro Putin or not. But anyway,
you might check to see if it has it. But I also have a website if people are interested to see what else I do. It's called The Unencumbered Mind, and it talks about my perspective on both science and spirituality and how to bring those things into harmony, which is what this book is about.
Fantastic.
So I think that's my my path is to bring science and spirituality into harmony.
So that's really some great work you've done there, Jamie, and really appreciate you coming on the show to talk about your book today, mostly about your book. And it's a great pleasure having just this conversation with you as well, and a few laughs down the road. I mean, people that know me, it's good to throw one or two humour around anyway. But no.
Thank you for having me. The opportunity to talk to your audience. Thank you.
That's all for this episode. Thanks for listening. And remember, if you want to support what we do, then share, subscribe, and leave a review over on Apple Podcasts. Or head over to my website, davepalmer.com, and click on Rate Show. Well, that's all for now, but I'll see you in the next episode of The Dave Palmer Show.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.